Thank you so much again. Maybe before we start with the question, can you introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. I'm Seth Morrison. I'm American Jewish anti-Zionist and very involved in a number of pro-Palestine organizations, including Jewish Voice for Peace.
Okay, great, thank you. And why do you care about Palestine?
You know, there are a few reasons. First of all, I've had the opportunity to meet and spend time with a lot of Palestinians, and hearing their stories, hearing how they're treated, has always really deeply affected me. The other thing is that as a Jewish person, you know, the organized Jewish community claims that they're speaking for all Jews, and that's simply not true. And so I feel very motivated to stand up and say, wait a minute, what Israel is doing is wrong, and it has to be called out.
Mm, thank you. You said that you had the opportunity to meet a lot of Palestinians. Was it the starting point, and how did you get to meet them?
Before I became anti-Zionist, I was part of a coexistence program that brought Palestinians, Israelis, North Americans, and Jordanians together for environmental education. And I was a supporter of that program and helped them as a volunteer raise money in the US. So in doing so, I got to spend a lot of time with the Palestinian students.
Mm. And you say you used to be a supporter of that program. Has that changed?
It has changed because that program decided to partner with the Jewish National Fund. And
Mm.
I just could not stay involved once I really learned what the JNF was doing.
Okay.
I don't know if you
So,
want to refer to it, but there's an op-ed I wrote in 2011 about why I was leaving that program that got a lot
okay.
of press around the world.
Mm. Yeah, it would be great to, I mean, out of curiosity, also to get this. Um, and so, did it happen at the same time for you to start really caring about Palestine and for you to become an anti-Zionist?
It was a gradual process. Um, I was involved in a Zionist youth movement, and one of the people who I worked with in that movement is Gershon Baskin, who you may have heard of. He is an American who moved to Israel, who has done a lot of work in coexistence and in negotiating with Hamas. And when he started doing that work, because he's a friend, I learned about it. So it took me a few years to get deeper into the issue to really understand what was going on.
Mm, okay. And did you becoming anti-Zionist, how did this affect your relationship? Did you have any issues with your family or social circle?
I had some, yes. The friends I had made through the program all cut ties completely. And I have some family members who don't talk to me. I have others who understand, and we're fine.
Mm, okay. And can you talk a little bit about how your Jewish identity and or Jewish faith affect your position? How do you navigate this?
You know that Jews have been and are often persecuted. And as such, our culture has really developed around supporting the oppressed. And, you know, if you look back over the last 100 years, Jews have been involved in most important social movements. We were very involved in socialism and communism. We were very involved in the US civil rights area. So supporting our fellow humans is an important part of Jewish religion. And what's unfortunate is that Zionists have chosen to basically make an exception. Say, you know, we support human rights, we support freedom, except for Palestine. And as I learned about that, I just couldn't accept it.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And actually, it raises a question, like, because we see more and more, as you were talking before, we see more and more anti-Zionist Jews, and we see them having a big position also in speaking up against what's happening right now. How big is the anti-Zionist Jewish community? Do you have also I don't know, some rabbis or synagogues that are known to gather this community? How does this
Well, there's been
look like?
no formal research. I can tell you that at Jewish Voice for Peace, they have about 900,000 supporters. There is one declared anti-Zionist synagogue in the US, and there are a handful of synagogues that are not Zionist, but they don't consider themselves anti-Zionist.
Okay, thank you. And so how do you actively support Palestine?
Well, first of all, I'm blessed to be able to do so financially. And second, I'm very active in public actions, whether it's protests, public speaking, and legislative government activities.
Okay, and you were speaking before a bit about Jewish Voice for Peace. Can you present it and talk a bit about the actions that are being done?
Sure, although let me make clear that I am doing this interview as an individual. I'm not here to speak for Jewish Voice for Peace. But Jewish Voice for Peace is the largest Jewish anti-Zionist organization in the world. And it is focused on changing US policy relating to Israel. You know, we believe very strongly that it's the US support that enables Israel to continue to oppress Palestinians. And so we work to oppose that.
Okay, and so you're talking about legislative pressure. Can I say it this way?
Well, what we usually say is legislative advocacy.
Okay, and so
So,
it takes the form of advocacy mainly.
well, it's a major part of what we do. I would not say, you know, a lot of what we do is work to educate Jews and other Americans about the evils of Zionism. And one part of that work is we oppose US aid. We are working with people like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar to change US policy.
Okay. And okay, so um, you talked about Ilhan Omar. I know that there was some criticism regarding her position. Is it something that you are also like talking about? Or
Yes, we totally agree with Rashida, and we feel that her positions are the right ones, and we work to get other people to agree with her.
okay, okay. And before you mentioned that you are lucky to be financially able to support this movement. Can you elaborate a little bit on this? In the
Well,
sense, like, why are you saying this?
you know, giving to charity is an important part of Judaism. You know, as Jews, we are mandated to support the hungry, to support the oppressed, and, to work for a better world. And, each person has to decide how to do that. So I'm able to donate money to Jewish Voice for Peace. I also give money to a number of charities that are supporting the people in Palestine. And I give money to a group called the Center for Jewish Nonviolence. And what they do is bring Americans to the occupied West Bank to support the local people. It's horrible to say, but when white American Jews are in Palestinian villages, the settlers and the army are not as aggressive, although lately they've been horrible.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So what do you think that the solution would be in Palestine?
Personally, I believe that only one secular democratic state has the potential to bring true peace. And, I have not believed in the two-state solution for years. And, you look around the world and democracies like America, France, Britain may not be perfect. We don't get everything right. We're still getting better, but the model works. I mean, as a Jewish person living in America, I am safe, I am comfortable, I've been able to get jobs, I've been able to get educated. Only secular democracy really can bring peace.
Mm. And why do you think you said that the two-state option was something you are not believing in? Why is that?
Well, first of all, I don't think Israel was ever serious. They paid lip service to it, and Netanyahu at least has been honest to say he doesn't support it. But more importantly, I am not aware of any areas where partitioning of land has worked. It doesn't solve the needs of either side, and it doesn't do anything to make up for the wrongs that were done to the Palestinian people.
Okay. And how does your support to one democratic state affect your relationship within the Jewish community?
Well, first of all, most of the organized Jewish community doesn't want anything to do with me. It's mainly because I'm anti-Zionist rather than because I support one state. But, the answer that I get is, that may be a beautiful vision, but it's impossible. That the Israelis and the Palestinians are so polarized that they can never learn to live and work together. And I don't believe that, but that's the response I get.
Okay. And within the anti-Zionist Jew community, are a lot of people supporting one state?
I think that it's definitely a growing number. Yes.
Okay.
Again, no formal research, but from my informal conversations, I would say yes.
Okay. And what would be your message to people, Jewish or not, who do not support one state?
Well, my message always starts, because I'm talking to Americans, with we have to stop funding and supporting Israel. And we really believe, I really believe, that the Palestinians and the Israelis have to determine their own future. It's not up to America or Europe or any third party to tell the local people how they should govern themselves. But, I simply point to the American example and say, look, America may not be perfect, but it overall works and it's getting better. And I just cannot see people on either side accepting an artificial separation when the fact is that we're siblings. We need to learn to live and work together.
And what would you answer to those who think that Jews wouldn't be safe without a Jewish state?
We are a persecuted people. And throughout our history, there have been many attacks on us. But, we're in the 21st century. We're in a different time. I do believe that whatever constitution, formative documents are created have to have full and equal protection for every citizen. And I think that it is up to the rest of the world, to the United Nations, to guarantee that for both sides. And, so I am concerned with it, but I also believe that the peace only comes when people learn to live together. The other thing I talk about is there's so much Zionist propaganda trying to say that Arab, Middle Eastern people are anti-Semitic and want to kill us. That's garbage. For 2,000 years, Jews and Arabs, whether Palestinian or not, have lived together in peace. The Quran makes very clear that Jews and Christians are the people of the book, that Islam builds on Judaism and Christianity. I have dear friends who are Arab Jews whose families lived side by side, whether in Palestine or Iran or Iraq or Morocco, for years. And that is the example we have to focus on, not the words of a few radicals on either side.
Okay. And what would be your message to Jewish Israelis in general?
Well, what I do know Jewish Israelis, some more progressive than others. What I say is, I do care about you. I want you and your family to be safe, as I want my Palestinian friends, and I don't have any Palestinian family, but my Palestinian friends have the same desires. And I want there to be peace. I want there to be equality. I want fairness. And the only way to get that is in a secular democratic state.
And you were saying that it's important to for any solution to be supported by people of concern. So we see a lot of Palestinians supporting one democratic state. Is it the case also for Israelis, or do you think we can get there?
I go back to South Africa. White South Africans supported apartheid. And they did so until they realized that the rest of the world wouldn't tolerate it. When we boycott, divested from, and sanctioned South Africa, they realized they had to change. I know it is not going to be easy for Jews to give up the myth that that there can be a Jewish democratic state. I don't think Palestinians are going to get everything they want either. You know, there are many Palestinians who want a Palestinian-ruled country. Peace requires compromise and education and a lot of patience and support. And that's what I think the world needs to provide to both sides.
Okay. And what would be your message to Palestinians today, and particularly to Palestinians in Gaza?
First of all, I'm sorry. I am really sorry that I was a Zionist at one point, that my fellow Jews are doing this. The second thing I would say is that the extremists on both sides, the folks who say kill all the other, are not helping the situation. We need peacemakers. We need people who are firm in their demands, but also clear that they want peace. And, you know, the people on the extreme on both ends are hurting their own people.
Okay, thank you. And I also wanted to ask you, so how you navigate and or what's your perspective on the fact that pro-Palestinian and or anti-Zionist Jewish voices are being more recognized than Palestinian voices in all of this?
You know, it's a factor of American society, which I don't like, but we try at Jewish Voice for Peace, and all of the other organizations I support, to take our leadership from Palestinian allies. Now, the Palestinian community is not the same. Not everybody has the same beliefs, but we work with progressive Palestinian organizations. We work with the BDS National Committee, which is the largest single representative of the Palestinian people. And so, you know, within the movement, we try to take a back seat and let our Palestinian allies take the lead. But we also know that the myth created by Zionists that Jews are endangered, we're in a good position to counter that. And so while we don't like the situation, we try to make the best of it and use whatever white privilege we have to support Palestinians. The other thing that I think is very important to remember is that, at least in the US, the majority of Zionists are not Jewish. Christian Zionist movement has 20 or 30 million supporters, is very active in right-wing Christian fundamentalism, and vastly outnumber the American Jews overall, Zionist or anti-Zionist. So this is not a religious issue. The Jewish community has made it a religious issue, which we oppose and which we argue against. And so a lot of the US support for Israel is coming from Christian Zionists. And we should not forget that.
Yeah. And so just a last question, in today's atmosphere in the US and all the movements with students and at universities, do you see also these movements, Jewish movements, play a role to support, to put themselves also in as a, I don't know, to play a role in this movement?
You know, I sort of hate to say it, but the one good thing that came out of the horrors in Gaza is that more Americans are mobilized. And we are making a difference. We are very involved in American politics. The fact that these brave university students are putting so much on the line to publicly protest in communities and individuals that have never cared about Palestine. And they are defying the Zionist message that Palestinians are evil, that Israel is wonderful, and we're getting the truth out. Now it's slow; it's not as fast as we want, but we have to build on and nurture the movement as it grows.
Thank you. Is there anything that we haven't mentioned that you would like to talk about?
I just think that the fact that our movement is growing, you may have seen an effort in US primaries for people not to vote for Biden. And it's making a big difference. So, I just hope that we can continue to work together and continue to do everything we can to support the Palestinian people.